This NFL Week 15 pregame show edition of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MACHINE to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rebet, a new sportsbook available in 45 states. Download Rebet in your app store and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $100. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Taking a shot to ground downfield. He makes the catch, and he gets in for the touchdown. The catch is made by Calvin Ridley. Wilson, good as he throws deep downfield. It's going to be caught by Metcalf.
Welcome, everyone, to the NFL Week 15 pregame show. About 2 hours away from kickoff for the morning slate, the 1 o'clock slate for NFL Week 15. You guys know how we do it here. We'll get into all the player props for each and every game on the NFL Week 15 Sunday schedule. We'll put together our touchdown parlay for the Sunday schedule as well. And hopefully we do find some more winners for you guys here on the pregame show. But joining me, of course, here to help me break everything down for the player props on our pregame show. You guys know him as a voice on the NBA Gambling Podcast, the MLB Gambling Podcast, and of course here on the Propcast as well. Got my guy here with me. It's Lonte Smith. Lonte, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
Pretty good, man. I hope you're doing good too. Interesting slate. I think I probably had to dial it back too much because I like too much. So yeah, man. Hopefully we got some winners. If I haven't felt as good about the slate in a while, especially from a player prop perspective. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think this was a couple of weeks ago where I felt really good about player props for this week. I think it was the week after I just didn't like a lot, but there's some pretty good matchups here for this week 15 slate here. So let's just dive right into it here, man. We'll get into the first game here. We'll head to the Big Easy. The Washington Commanders are visiting the New Orleans Saints. Saints currently catching 7.5 points in this game with a total of 44.5. There's a couple games with weather implications. Obviously, this not being one because they do play in a dome. But I'll kind of go through those games that have weather implications as we go along here. But obviously, Jake Haener getting the start here for the New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr more than likely done for the rest of the season here. But the Commanders looking to stay alive in the NFC wildcard picture here. But Lonte, you got anything for Commanders and Saints?
Yeah, I got a couple. So we'll start off with two. With Jaden Daniels, I like him under 213.5 passing yards, and I like him over 38.5 rushing yards. I think that number might have moved 38. A lot of I'm trying to check on the numbers to get the updated ones. I think it's like 42.5 now, which I think is still fine. I think it's up. I think it's good up to like 45ish.
Let's get 41.
But as far as the
DraftKings, 41.
how much is it?
41.5.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I like it all the way up to 45. So passing wise, he's under in 4 of his last 5 on about 31.5 attempts in that span. So he's getting a ton of attempts. He's just not getting the yardage. He's under in his last 2 on the road. I think the run game should be, the focal point here. New Orleans plays a lot of man coverage, so Daniel struggles against that passing wise. New Orleans is also 29th in scramble yards allowed, so I look for him to be able to use his legs, to kind of get out and run in this spot. New Orleans also 22nd in quarterback rush yards allowed. So I'm thinking that he has a lot of rush lanes. Maybe he'll drop back to pass, but then we'll see more of, him using his legs. I mean, they got a 47.9% rush success rate, and New Orleans has a 55% rush success rate allowed, which is 30th in the NFL. So I think a lot of Brian Robinson, a lot of Jaden Daniels on the ground. I don't look forward to seeing him pass the ball a ton here. So that's the 2 on that side. So I think this one might have moved too much. Like I had Kamara under. Is it like 62.5 now? 63?
Let me see the updated number here.
Kamara. It opened 72.5.
Yeah, and last week he burned me against the Giants. I thought he would have a big week, but he was just a shell of himself last week. I see 61.5s out there. There's a 62.5 at Caesars as well. But
that's kind of my friend's point. I mean, it opened 72.5, and it's been dropping. I think he's been battling illnesses all week. He returned to practice Friday, but even though Friday is a limited capacity as far as practice. I mean, he's been struggling here as of late, under in he's under that number in 5 of his last 9. That's in 62.5. So
Yeah.
he's still right there. All 3 games without Derek Carr, he's seeing, I think he's under in those as well. He's seeing a Washington rush defense has been trending up. They're top 8 in rush success rate allowed since week 10. And they get some reinforcements in the secondary. So with Lattimore coming in, making his first start. So to be able to stack the box as well. So I'm still going to go under here. I think Kendre Miller coming back puts a dent in his carries. I think he'd be more effective in the pass game. So not as much for a smaller amount, but under 62.5 rush yards for Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, I was looking at Brian Robinson Jr., like everything you mentioned, that it should be maybe more of a run-heavy approach for the Washington Commanders in this game. His number was around, I want to say it was like 67 and a half. No, sorry. He opened at 72 and a half. It's up to 78 and a half right now. Excuse me. But it should be a big game for him, I think. Haven't seen a lot of Jake Haener as a starter. I know he's been coming in as the backup when when it's been a blowout. Kendre Miller, I'm kind of tempted by on his rushing yards over. It's at 32 and a half. He did have 10 attempts last week against the New York Giants, which just makes me curious to see what his rush attempts are in this game. Let's see here. Kendre Miller, they don't have it listed, but 32 and a half, I'm kind of intrigued by for his rushing yards in this game. Even if Kamara is, dealing with that illness or whatever the case might be, I think that there's an opportunity for Kendre Miller here in this matchup. Anything else for this game, Lonte?
No, that's all I have.
All right, let's keep it moving here. We'll get over to the Cincinnati Bengals. They are going to be in Tennessee to take on the Titans. Titans catching 6 points here at home with a total of 46 and a half. What are you looking at for Bengals Titans?
I didn't have a ton in this game. I didn't have anything at all. I'll tell you a few looks that I was going to play, but I didn't. I was looking at Ridley due to the pass defense of Cincinnati being so poor, but I didn't pull the trigger. I mean, obviously, I was going to go to T. Higgins as well. I know he was down a little bit. I think 2 receptions for like 34 yards or 24 yards last week. So I was looking at him. Tennessee, really strong pass defense, but they kind of struggle in the slot where T. Higgins plays against wide receiver 2s. But I didn't pull the trigger. But those would be 2 that I would look at with Ridley over and Higgins over. But I didn't play anything officially.
Yeah, I think the only one that was, or I should say I was tempted by was Will Levis on his passing attempts. He's at 31 and a half right now. Excuse me. The quarterbacks have gone over this number in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 8 of the last 10 games. Last week, Cooper Rush only threw for 31. Prior to that, 38, 36, 33, 33, 20 for Jalen Hurts, but we know the story there. 52, 41, 42, 40. So that was the only one that I was looking at in this game. But you mentioned T. Higgins. Maybe they get him going early in this game. If you want to look at, if your book offers those first quarter receiving prop numbers, I think that could be a good look for T. Higgins in this game. Yeah, not much else for me as well in this game. So we'll keep it moving here. The next game on the schedule, we'll go over to the Kansas City Chiefs. They are in Cleveland to take on the Browns. Currently, as it stands, the Chiefs are laying 4.5 points in this game with a total of 41.5. Now, this game does have some weather implications. Let me get to that report here. And so we're looking at 41 degree temperatures. We have a chance of rain, but there are winds. I think I read that these are going to be cross winds at 17 miles per hour. So there will be weather implications in this game, hence why the total has dropped from the opener of 46.5 now down to around 41.5 consensus right now here, Lonte. But what are your thoughts on Chiefs and Browns for player props?
Yeah, interesting game. I didn't have anything here as well. I looked at Nuke Hopkins to kind of have some catches. His target share has been really up since in the past like 3 or 4 weeks. I think Cleveland struggles a little bit in the slot where he primarily operates from. Cleveland side, I mean, it's kind of hard to do. I was looking at Jerome Ford rush receiving because I think he'll be like taking over a little bit of the role for Nick Chubb, who's been pretty inefficient since coming back. I think he's going to take him. I think he'll be back to somewhat normal next week. I mean, next year. I just don't think this year is the year for us to see that what we've seen from Nick Chubb as of early on in his career. So I passed on this. Those would be the two that I would look at, if anything, but just a hard game to kind of handicap and to find ankles for player props.
Yeah, I was looking at Pacheco on his rush attempts to go over. This was at 13.5 earlier. It's now moved to 14.5 with juice towards the over, so moving in the right direction for Isaiah Pacheco. But we saw last week that his carries were starting to increase since he's returned from the injury. On the first week, I think he had single digits, and then last week, I believe he had I think it was 12 or 13 last week, but this week it's right at around 13.5 to 14.5. But I do think that he can, again, if the wind is going to be a factor and the weather is going to be a factor in this game, I would see maybe more of a heavy run approach for the Chiefs in this game here. So, yeah, that's the one I did like in this game. All right, we'll keep it moving here to the next game on the board. We'll go over to the Baltimore Ravens. They are in MetLife to take on the Giants. Ravens laying 16.5 points in this game with a total of 43. Don't think we have significant weather implications in this game. Let me just double check here. There is a chance of rain, but it's only 5%. Nothing really with wind. It will be colder temperatures, around 36 degrees in this game here, Lonte. But do you have anything for the Ravens and Giants?
Yeah, so I like one thing. We're going to go with Lamar Jackson rushing yards over. I mean, his mom called him out, so I think he's probably going to play a little bit better here. Giants struggle with dual threat quarterbacks they have all year relative to their rushing expectation. I'm trying to find my notes on the game. But I just think that this will be a run-first approach for Baltimore. You want to drop back Lamar a ton here and risk the ball getting in the air. Anything can happen when the ball's in the air. So I think to keep it on ground with Henry and Lamar.
Yeah,
I mean the interior rush for the Giants is pretty much negated because Lawrence is out. I think the outside lanes they'll rush from him, try to push the pocket up, and then he'll just squirt out to the middle. So yeah, I like him over his 40. I see 44.5, 45.5.
For Lamar, I saw 40. I see a 45.5 at DraftKings. That was probably the best number. Let me see here.
45. 45 is fine.
Yeah, I see 40. I see a 42.5 at FanDuel, 42.5 at BetMGM.
Yeah.
Everybody else is at 44.5, 45.
Yeah. Burrow had 55. Geno had 72. Daniels 44. Bryce 30. Baker 29. So all of those relative to their perspective. I mean their respective rush totals went over. Yeah. So I think Lamar has a similar game here.
Yeah, I think a sneaky one as well I do like in this game is Justice Hill over on his rushing yards. I think that if they do get up by like say 3-4 touchdowns at the end of the third quarter, you're not going to keep Derrick Henry out there, Lamar out there. You probably want to, kill the clock. How do you do that? Run the football.
Yep.
With Justice Hill. They have a big game next week against the Steelers as well. So I do like Justice Hill in this game, rushing yards. I think that he can get this done. And again, if he gets like 5-6 carries, I think that he might even need that many to get up and over this number here. So do like him in this spot here. Not much for the Giants side. Tommy Cutlett's going to start there again for the New York Giants. So, do with that what you want. But I think a lot of it is going to be on the rushing attack here for the Baltimore Ravens. All right, let's keep it moving here. We'll go to the Miami Dolphins. They are in Houston to take on the Texans. Texans either laying 2.5 with Vig or -3 reduced juice. Total sitting at 46.5 in this game. Texans coming off their bye week. Of course, no weather implications in this game. They do. I'll see the updated schedule, or sorry, the updated injury report. But I know they get some guys back. I think on the defensive side, do the Texans here. But let me see if I can find that while you give your player props in this game, if any, here, Lonte.
Yeah, man, I like the ton here. I had to scale it down to just 2. So we're gonna be heavy Houston here. I'm gonna go CJ Stroud. Oh, so this move too, I think. See, I think I got 248.5, but I'm pretty sure that's up to like 255, 256. I'll get the exact number, but I think that's fine either way. I think he has a monster day. Teams have been throwing a ton more to keep up with Miami's offense since Tua returned. The pass attempts are up by opponents by about 10 since he's returned. So, I mean, the opposing teams are throwing the ball a ton. If you look at the quarterbacks that they faced 5 of the last 7, they went over. And I think it's a spot for CJ where he has to play well. Off of a bye, him and Bobby Slowick probably got in the lab, fixed a couple of things. He's been inconsistent, struggling. So I think that he has a big day. So let's get CJ Stroud over his passing yards. I'll get an official number after you get your handicap, but like I had 248.5 and I saw it move. So, but I still like it over.
I see
and we're going to go say it again.
I see it ranging from 253.5 all the way up to 260.5.
Yeah, I mean, so find the best number. We'll just go. We'll just split in the middle. We'll just go 255.5, just to split the difference.
So FanDuel 254.5, Caesars 254.5, DraftKings 257.5, BetMGM and Bet365 have 260.5. So again, get that best number if you do have Bet Rivers or FanDuel or Caesars available to you. What else did you guys say you have in this game? Yeah,
I like Dalton Schultz. I'm ladder him up all the way up to about 70, 80 yards. He's over 29.5 receiving yards. Is that what you see? 29.5?
Dalton Schultz. Let's see here. Let me get back to the screen. Dalton. I see 32.5.
That's fine. Yeah, I like it. Since the bye, Miami's allowed 7 of the 9 tight ends to go over this number on a nice chunk of targets as well. Look at Conklin. Last week, he had a ton of targets. He had 33 yards. 70. Kraft had 78. Hooper and Henry in the same game, 59 and 44. Bowers, 126. Kincaid, 42. McBride, 124. And he's over in 4 of his last 6 and 4 of 8 with Nico. Like I said, Miami struggling against tight end, 24 DVOA versus tight ends since that bye. I mean, I just think that it's a smash spot for this passing offense of Houston. So give me Dalton Schultz over 32.5.
It should be a CJ game here, or kind of has to be. I think the ball then does go to Nico Collins, but I mean, he's getting priced now, like, with some of the top wide receivers in the league. And I mean, you can't really blame him for that. 88.5 is a number. So you get 87.5 over at FanDuel. I also like his longest reception to go over. He's been crushing it. I think this is the highest I've ever seen for a running back, for a wide receiver. 29.5 is at DraftKings, but there is a 27.5 at FanDuel, 28.5. But he's been crushing this number for the Texans as far as his longer reception does go in this game. But it's a big game, like obviously for the Texans. If they do win here today and the Colts lose, the Texans do clinch the AFC South division. Miami, I think, pretty much out of it, of course, for the playoff picture. So they're just kind of looking to play spoiler. Hopefully it is a big CJ Stroud game here in this game. Mal mentioned likes under 267.5 passing yards.
Best of luck to you. I cannot you can't take. I can't do it. I mean, it might be high, but bro, he's throwing the ball like I was looking at his pass attempts because I think it's going to be a shootout. I mean, Houston plays really well in the first half. I think the offense is going to come out like really, really fired up. So I'm looking at his. So he's thrown the ball 36, 40, 46, and 47 times the past 4 games. I mean, Houston's secondary can be had. I don't know. I don't know, Mal.
I would look at his longest reception. Longest completion to possibly go over. But you also take a look at that, like which teams he's played in that span. It's been the Raiders, the Patriots, the Packers. All right, I'll give him that, but they were trailing for most of that game. And then 331 last week against the Jets in overtime. But I still think they got up and over that number. So he's gone over this number in 4 straight weeks. So maybe I should bench my guy who I have starting Joe Burrow against Mal and start Tua instead. I don't know. Maybe that'll beat him this week. So we'll see. I think that's it for me in this game as well. Let's move it here to the Dallas Cowboys there in Carolina to take on the Panthers. Panthers laying, again, 2.5 juiced or 3 at reduced juiced. Yes, I did say the Panthers are favored. A total of 42 in this game. Here, Lonte, let me see if there are any weather implications in this game.
Oh, no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful in North Carolina.
Yeah, I don't see much. It is saying it's 45 degrees. I mean, but you can probably expand more on that. But not much weather implications in this game. But what do you got for Cowboys Panthers?
Yeah, it'll be fine. It's perfect football weather. Man, a lot of these props got like smashed in the market. I think it's because college football guys are coming over to NFL, and man, a lot of these got smoked. So I like Rico Dow over 83.5 rushing yards. He's over in 3 straight. He's at 18 plus carries in each. I mean, he's pretty much taken over like 100% of the snap share for the running backs. And Carolina, their rush defense has been really bad, allowing the most rushing yards to opposing running backs in like 139. If you look at the last 155 rush yards allowed. Rico's been dominant over the last month. This Carolina defense, really bad, man. Rush defense, really bad. But their pass defense is pretty good, which brings me into my next prop, which would be Cooper Rush under 211.5 passing yards, minus 15. Carolina's allowing 5.2 yards per pass attempt the last 5, which is 4th in the NFL. That's down from 7.5 yards per pass prior. So, they're doing pretty well defending the pass, which gives Rico Dowdle the more space to work with underneath. Cooper Rush has the second lowest pass success rate. Will Levis is the only person behind him. Don't want to be categorized with Will Levis here. It's his second road start. He's under in his last 2 starts overall. I think the game plan should be centered around Rico with the rush defense being that poor. So I like Cooper Rush under 211.5 passing yards. And I got one more for you. So it moved a ton. I like Chuba Hubbard over. It opened 98.5. It's up to 103.5 rush receiving. He's averaging 25 touches over the last month. He should get a heavy workload. They don't have a healthy running back. I think they had somebody off the practice squad. If you look at what running backs have done against Dallas, if they have 16 touches, they're averaging about 155 rushing and receiving yards. That's just with 16 touches. So that was from Paul Charchian. I got that from him. They got no healthy backs. So he's going to get probably 95, 98% of the snaps here. I think it's just a volume play here. I know it's going up about 5 yards, but I'll still take it over 103.5 rush receiving for Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, it should be a good game for him. I sneakily I bet this at the opening number of 13.5 for Bryce Young's rushing yards in this game. That's up to now 17.5. And since he's returned for the Panthers as the starting quarterback, he's actually been utilizing his legs and making plays that way as well. Trying to pull up the exact numbers here. So last 4 weeks, rushing the football, 30 against the Giants, 20 against the Chiefs, 17 against the Bucks. And then last week, he did have 7 attempts for 29 rushing yards. If you also want to take a look at his longest rush attempt to go over as well, that number, he's over the last 5 games that he's played in, he's had a long rush attempt of at least 9 yards. And over the last 3 weeks, it's been in double digits. And that number right now for his longest rush attempt is sitting at 9.5. You could get that at BetMGM and BetRivers. They have 9.5s available there. So done it in 4 straight weeks, 24-11, 10 and 11. But I really do like his rushing yards in this game. I think this is one of my more favorite ones of the week, if not the entire season. I agree about Rico Dowdle. I think this should be a big game for him as well as Chuba Hubbard. So hopefully there's a lot of rushing yards in this game as far as our player props go. All right, let's move it along here to the New York Jets. They are in Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Jaguars are catching 3.5 points in this game with a total of 41. I do believe Breece Hall is out for this game, but Lonte, player props between the Jets and the Jaguars.
Yeah, you know what? I actually think that this game will be kind of on the high scoring side. I know 40.5 is a low total, but we got 2 bad defenses here. Aaron Rodgers had a big day last week. I think he has a pretty big day this week as well against his pass defense. And Mac Jones, listen, it hasn't been pretty, but he's been throwing the ball a ton. So I'm going over 204 passing yards for Mac Jones. He's over in back-to-back games. He's if 30-plus attempts in each. And if you look at the last 4 quarterbacks that have faced the Jets, they've gone over this number: 331, Geno 206. If Anthony Richardson throws for 272 on you, then that's probably like 350 for any other quarterback. So he threw for 272. Kyler threw for 266. I think it's a good spot for him. Game script should be. Game script could be on our side here if they get down a bit, which forces them to throw even more. So I like him over 204 passing yards. And one of my favorite ones of the day, it got hammered as well. I think it opened like 22, but I like Strange over 28.5 receiving yards, minus 15. He's at 20 plus receiving yards in 3 of his last 5 with limited targets. He only had 1 reception in each of his last 3 games, and that was on 4 targets. So he's producing even when limited capacity. Ingram's been ruled out. I think he's on IR. And if you look at what tight ends have done versus the Jets, you got Jonnu Smith 44. He basically got that on like a half of a quarter. That's on one drive. McBride 71, Hunter Henry 45, Pat Freiermuth 51, Kincaid 61. So I mean, pretty simple for me. They don't have a ton of wide receiver tight ends on the roster. Thomas likely to be covered by Sauce, so that leaves Strange with a ton of opportunities. And if you look at Mac Jones, he's been targeting Evan Ingram. He's targeted him 30 times in his 4 starts, and he's had 30 plus in 3 of his last 4. And obviously, Strange isn't Ingram, but just off volume alone and not having a ton of guys here, I think Strange walks into 50, 60 yards. I laddered him up as well to 50, 60 yards.
Yeah, last week I had Parker Washington, but that didn't really pan out. I think he only like 2 receptions for like 15 yards, if I'm not mistaken. But I agree about Mac Jones. I think that the backfield has not produced a whole heck of a lot this season for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I think it'll maybe be more of a pass approach here for Mac Jones. So if you want to take a look at his passing yards over, like Lonte mentioned, pass attempts to go over, I think that could be worth a look in this game here as well. Isaiah Davis, I think, is sneaky in this game against the Jaguars rush defense or lack thereof. Last week, he did have 10 carries for 40 yards. Braylon, it's going to be him and Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis in the backfield this week. I don't see their numbers posted for whatever reason, but I do like them in this game here against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So those were the 2 I was looking at in this game here against the Jets and the Jaguars. All right, next game on the schedule here, we'll go over to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are in the city of brotherly love to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles are laying 5.5 points in this game with a total of 43 here. Lonte, any thoughts on the Steelers and Eagles?
Yeah, just one. I love Saquon, but 100.5 rushing yards is pretty high. Like Pitt's defense is not just a bottom tier defense. I mean, especially against the run, they're top 8 defending the run, and there's only been one back to top 100 yards against them. Do you know who that back is? You think?
One back against the Steelers this season?
Only one back to go over 100 yards. I'm pretty sure nobody will guess it.
And I know it's not Derrick Henry. Have they played the Giants this season?
Yep.
There's probably Tyron Tracy Jr.
Yep, it is. 145. He's the only back to go over. And then only 3 other ones, including him, three other ones outside of him have even top 70. And this is including like Chubb twice, Henry, Bijan, Brees Hall. So they're shutting down, premier backs, not just, bottom tier backs. So I think 100.5 is heavy. I actually think the Pitt pass defense can be had. They've got a lot of penalties. I mean, we saw what Tomlin was talking to the secondary, especially what's my guy's name? I forgot his name. Porter. You were talking to Joey Porter about penalties. So, and we saw the hoopla that's been surrounding AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. So I think they put it in the air a little bit more here. So I like under 100.5 rushing yards for Saquon.
The one I was looking at was for the Steelers side. Actually, I do like a couple for the Steelers side. Mike Williams over 20.5 receiving yards. His longest reception to go over as well. I feel like that's a little bit correlated. And then Pat Freiermuth over 31.5 receiving yards in this game. Maybe it's for him to find the end zone in this game here as well. The only part that makes me nervous about it is that the pass defense for the Eagles has been really good. And you take a look at Mike Williams. He did have 36 yards last week on 4 targets for 3 receptions. A long reception of 22 yards in that game. But if he's having a reception in a game, he's typically getting up and over this long reception. The number I think I saw was at 13.5, 14.5 for his longest reception to go up and over. Let me see if I can find an updated number here. Mike Williams, it's at 13.5. But like I mentioned, he's in every game except for one where he's had a catch, he's gone up and over this number, and the minimum has been 15. Early in the season, he had 19, 18, 22, 18, 15, 6, 32, and 22, and those are all long receptions. So I think that he can get it done in this game here as well. So those are the ones I was looking at. Didn't have much for the Eagles side. I mean, if you want to the Jalen Hurts under pass attempts has been a very profitable angle this season. It just keeps dropping by one attempt every single week as he does keep cashing the unders on his pass attempts. But that was one I was looking at. Maybe play that one live. We'll see. But yeah, those are the ones I liked in this game for Steelers and the Eagles. All right, we'll get over to the game of the week here. That is going to be the Buffalo Bills. They are in Detroit to take on the Lions. Lions are laying 2.5 points in this game with a total of 54.5 here. Lonte, any player props for Bills Lions?
Just one. I know the popular one is Josh Allen, rush yards this week. So staying away from that. But I like Jared Goff over 20. You can find 22.5 juiced or 23.5 minus one, like 12. But I like 22.5. I'll drink the juice over in 3 of his last 4. High volume of attempts, even in blowout. So they're throwing the ball a ton. We saw what Stafford was able to do last week against this Bills defense. I think Goff is in a perfect position. He's elite versus zone coverage. And if you look at some of the quarterbacks that have faced this Buffalo defense, Stafford 23 completions, Mahomes 23, Flacco 26, Tua 25. If you take out Purdy, Snow game, then 4 straight quarterbacks have gone over this 22.5. Bills 25th in pressure rate, 24th in rate of man coverage, and 30th in blitz rate. So he should have time in the pocket, and that's not what you want to do with Jared Goff. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown has a big game as well, splitting that zone coverage. So I like Jared Goff over 22.5 completions, probably like minus 120, 125. I think that's fun.
I like one for each side. Khalil Shakir up and over his receiving yards. 53.5 was the number it opened at. I believe he's up to like 55.5, 56.5 for Khalil Shakir. He's done, or I should say, I mentioned this pretty much every single week. Slot wide receivers against the against the Detroit Lions has been a very profitable angle. I know it hasn't been there maybe the last couple of weeks there, but I think this is a good spot here for Khalil Shakir. I know they get Keon Coleman back this week, but not sure how effective he will be in his first game back after missing several weeks there. And then David Montgomery over 15.5 receiving yards. I don't understand, or I guess I shouldn't say it out loud, but the books haven't really adjusted this number for David Montgomery. And the numbers, you take a look at it for the last, I think, 6 weeks for David Montgomery as far as receiving yards go for him. He's had 23, 24, 20, and then the last 3 weeks, 36, 36, and 33. The number right now is sitting at 15.5 for David Montgomery. You also take a look at running backs through the air against the Buffalo Bills. I believe the Bills are allowing the 5th most. Let me update that. Hold on. They are allowing the 3rd most receiving yards to the running back position are the Buffalo Bills at 44.5 for this game here. So, yeah, I'll take that one to the bank. Give me the David Montgomery receiving yards in this game of 15.5. All right, let's get over to the Indianapolis Colts. They are in Denver to take on the Broncos. Broncos laying 4.5 points in this game with a total of 43.5. Lonte, you got anything for Colts Broncos?
Yeah, I do. So I love Josh Downs in this game, man. Josh Downs over 4.5 receptions. That's at plus money. Also like him over 52.5 receiving yards. I parlayed both of those. So I did 4 plus and then 50 plus, which is a nice plus price. He's over in 4 of his last 5. When he has 5 plus catches, which is 6 of his 10 games. And it's a game in there that he got hurt and didn't continue to play. So really probably a little bit better than 6 and 10. He's averaging like 72.2 yards per game. Denver's allowing 138 yards a game to wide receiver 1 and 2 combined in their last 2. Primarily it's in the slot. We saw Judy go off for 238. Jacoby Myers had 121. Surtain likely to shadow Pittman. Riley Moss is out, I think, still. And that led to Judy, going crazy in the slot versus Levi Wallace. I just think wide receivers have surpassed his number like a ton here. If you look at Elijah Moore, he had 111, Zay Flowers 127, Jacoby Myers again had 72, and Hopkins had 56. So Denver plays a ton of man coverage. Perfect spot for Downs underneath. I wouldn't be shocked if he's close to 100 yards as long as Anthony Richardson kind of hits him in stride and doesn't miss him here. So I like Josh Downs over 4.5 receptions at plus money, over 52.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, well, I hope he gets an illness and misses the game because I'm playing against him
Oh
in
man, I'm sorry.
fantasy with
You got me
Mal.
last in your last handicap because I'm playing against both Shakir and Montgomery in a league. So yeah.
But yeah, it seems like a good spot there. I just really can't figure out this Denver Broncos running back room. Javonte Williams is sitting at 31.5, but again, it could just be the Estime, I don't know how to say his last name, show. So I kind of stayed away from that one. Richardson, rushing yards, you can always take the over for that. Bo Nix as well. Devon Vele has been another guy that we've talked about, I think, a few weeks ago, where he had a really good week for the Denver Broncos. He's starting to emerge as at 1B next to Cortland Sutton. So I think they have their guys of the future here with Bo Nix. So if you want to take a look at his receiving yards to go up and over in this game, but this one should be a fun one. Hopefully the Broncos pull it out against the Colts here so we can at least lock up the AFC South division in this week. All right, Lonte, let's get over to the New England Patriots. They are in Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Cardinals are laying 6 points in this game with a total of 46. Do you have anything for Patriots Cardinals?
I don't. I don't have a single bet in this game, man. It's like, I mean, I guess the easy cop out would be Drake May rushing, but the Cardinals have been so bad. Well, I mean, I can't even say the full team, but Kyler's been bad as of late. So I'm kind of scarred. I had a big bet on them to win against Seattle last week, and they kind of shit the bed. So I'm staying away from this. I think New England is live in the game, but as far as prop perspective, I got nothing unless you could talk me into something.
Yeah, I really didn't have much. I mean, if you want to look at Trey McBride, maybe for his yards, I feel like he had a down week last week, if I'm not mistaken. Everybody's still kind of waiting for that first receiving touchdown for him this season. Seeing a lot of anytime touchdown bets on him. Not really. I mean, I guess to the Trey McBride standards, last week was the down week. He did still had 14 targets last week, 7 receptions for 70 yards in that game. But prior to that, I mean, he was walking into like double-digit receptions, 133 receiving yards, 96 in that game. So if you want to go back to Trey McBride this week on the receptions, so I wish the books start putting a market for targets. I think that would be a fun market to look at. I think Underdog does.
Underdog does that.
Yeah, that's why we love Underdog.
Yep.
For giving us the targets a market there. All right, couple more games left here. Let's go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are in LA to take on the Chargers. Chargers laying 2.5 points in this game. With a total of 46 here, Lonte. Any thoughts on Bucks Chargers?
Yeah, man, I wanted to play McConkey here, but he 71.5 after not playing last week. That's a high number. Herbert is good to go. I'm pretty sure. Herbert plays hurt all the time, so
yeah,
I think he'll be fine. I looked at his rushing yards over. But I didn't play it. I kind of looked at it. I might play it later on depending on how the early slate goes. But I was trending towards that way because Tampa is 28th in rushing yardage allowed to the quarterback or to passers, 26.1. And I think Herbert's only at like 14.5. He's been using his legs a ton more. Tampa uses a high rate of cover 3. And I mean, that's another reason why I was liking McConkey. But I'm going to go with another one of my favorite ones. I'm going to go with Stone Smart over 28.5. Receiving yards, this number is like all over the place. I think it opened 22.5 or 24.5, up to 28. I think you can, if you want to go under, I think you can find like 32, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm gonna ladder him up. He had 3 for 54 last week. 2 of those were explosive plays, 20 plus yards. The Chargers' top 2 tight ends are out, so he should get a ton more opportunity here. I expect it to be a lot more of zone coverage, so he'll be sit right in those zones. Tampa's 27th DVOA versus tight ends, allowing 70 yards. That's the second most in the NFL. I mean, I think it's a great opportunity for Stone Smart. 40 plus was like 2-1. Now it's down to 155. So, kind of schools out on Stone Smart. But I do think he has a big day still. I'm going to ladder him up 40, 50, and 60 yards. I think Herbert finds him early and often in that zone of Tampa.
Yeah, I didn't have much for this game. I saw that McConkey was going to go through pregame warmups and then determine if he's going to be able to go or not in this game. So I think obviously we'll wait for that news, but I really didn't have much for Chargers and Bucks. Sunday Night Football, we've got the Green Bay Packers. They're in Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Seahawks catching 2.5 points here at home with a total of 46.5 here. Take a look at the weather. I think there was not.
Yeah, it was like fluctuating back and forth. It's some wind, and then it was some rain, and then it's kind of cleared up. So it was kind of all over the place earlier in the week.
Yeah, it seems like it's cleared up a little bit. There's a slight chance of rain, 45-degree weather, not much of a wind factor in this game, to say the least here. So should be okay, at least weather-wise, between the Packers and the Seahawks here. Lonte, you got anything for this game?
Yeah, I like Josh Jacobs under 74.5 rushing yards. That's minus 20. He's had a high volume of carries, 18 in the last 4, but he's under in back-to-back games. Seattle defense overall has been like really good since the bye week or since week 9. Their rush defense is allowing 43.6 yards a game to RB1s and 2s. RB1s are under this number in 4 of the last 6 versus Seattle. Good spot here for Seattle. I think actually the wrong team's favorite here. I think Seattle controls the game. Charbonnet, Geno with his legs. I don't think that Josh Jacobs gets going here against a good Seattle front who's improving under Mike McDonald. I also looked at Reed to kind of. I wanted him to have a bounce back after that poor performance last week, but I didn't like the matchup, so I stayed away. But that's something I'll be looking at later on. If we have a decent day here, I might put something on him to have like 100+ yards.
Zach Charbonnet has filled in very nicely for Kenneth Walker. He's going to be out this week as well. If you want to take a look at him and in the rushing yard department last week, 22 carries, 134 yards, 2 total touchdowns. He's had back-to-back touchdowns in the past 2 games, let's say totaling 3 touchdowns. I know the Packers, I want to say rush defense, they've been pretty good, but I think over the last couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken, has been struggling just a tad. Let me see if I can find those numbers. Packers, no, that's quarterbacks. Running backs. So last week, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery combined for 29 rush attempts. That only equated to 94 yards. Part of that, 12 of 33 for the Falcons, and then 14 of 39 for the 49ers. So stand corrected, they've been actually pretty good. Part of that's when they were struggling a little bit, but they've been giving it up in the passing game. 23 total receptions have the Packers defense given up to the running back position over the last 2 weeks. 23. Devon Achane had 7. Raheem Mostert had Devon Achane had 8. Raheem Mostert had 2. And then last week, David Montgomery had 5 receptions. Jahmyr Gibbs had 6. So if you want to look at Zach Charbonnet in the passing game, again, that's been my theme this season.
Yep, I agree.
I think that's kind of been an option because last week he had 7 receptions, 7 targets, 59 receiving yards against the Arizona Cardinals. So I think that can continue this week here for Zach Charbonnet. Outside of that, not much else. I mean, if you look at Jordan Love to throw an interception, I mean, we know that he's been a turnover machine as far as throwing interceptions. I think there was a stretch where he had 7-8 games where he threw an interception at least. So I think that if the Seahawks want to win this game, I think they're going to have to force some type of turnovers here. So what better way to do that than intercept the opposing quarterback in Jordan Love? Lonte, we have some time left here. You have anything for Monday Night Football you've looked at yet?
Do I? No, I didn't. I didn't cap it yet. I think it's some good opportunity. I mean, if you want to talk it through, I think that is some good opportunities for Rome Odunze against that Minnesota secondary. He saw a lot of balls go his way last week, and I think Minnesota with that blitzing, Caleb Williams getting the ball out quick. I think Odunze could be in line for a decent game. Then again, I mean, you're kind of battling, Keenan Allen and then DJ Moore. So I think Odunze will be prime for a decent game as a third receiver with Minnesota kind of having to shade towards DJ Moore and Keenan Allen underneath. So that's one of the ones that I looked at first. I also looked at Aaron Jones under his rush yards. I mean, I've been playing it for 2 weeks straight, and he barely got me in the last few weeks. So I was looking at that. I think the Chicago Bears rush defense is a little poor, but they've been trending a little better as of late. So that's the only 2 that I had looked at. The other game I didn't have a ton for, unless you have something.
I actually did like the over on Aaron Jones. I got at 62.5. Last couple weeks here, the Bears rush defense has not been very good. Packers, Josh Jacobs, 18 for 76. Aaron Jones had that game a couple weeks ago, 22 for 106. Both Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery got up and over their numbers. They had 87, 88 respectively. And then last week, Isaac Garindo had 15 carries for 78 yards here. So
yeah, I think so. So basically, I think I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that a lot of that was like game script wise, where they're just handing the ball off because they were up. So I think this will be a little bit closer. That's why I'm thinking that they'll use a pass. Excuse me, use the pass a little bit more. So I think it. I mean, they of course went over those numbers, but I thought for the most part, as a whole, they were a little bit better because they were getting gassed early in the season. So
yeah, and I think the only great week they've had was against the Texans, and that was a game where Joe Mixon got hurt in week 2, and then against the Jaguars, they only allowed 51 rushing yards there. So I think more so because I think that Aaron Jones is familiar with the Chicago Bears, obviously, while all his time in Green Bay and now coming over to the Minnesota Vikings. I think that's to his advantage here, but we'll see. I think just based on the stats wise, I really did like it here for Aaron Jones. I think it is going to be Desmond Ridder going to start for the for the Raiders. If we're going to call it the revenge angle for him, going up against his former team. Jacoby Myers has been a very solid proposition over the past couple weeks for the Raiders. Yeah, you mentioned it. The targets have been there for him. He's had double-digit targets and for the last 5 weeks, 105 receiving yards, 121, 97, and 67 for Jacoby Myers there. So that was one I would consider, but I'm not sure if I trust if it is going to be Desmond Ridder to get him the football.
yeah, I mean, I expect Kirk. He has to go off here. I mean,
yeah, this is a prime spot.
Yeah, this is a great spot for him. I mean, I know prime time's not his thing, but against his defense, he has to do something.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see here quickly before we get to our touchdown parlay what quarterbacks have done against the Raiders the past several weeks. So yeah, I mean, let me know if you see a number for Kirk Cousins there, Lonte, but I'm just going to read off these quarterback yardage numbers against the Raiders. Mahomes 262, Burrow 251, Tua 288, Bo Nix 273, Mahomes again 306, and then last week Baker Mayfield 295. They've allowed at least 2 passing touchdowns in 5 of the last 6 weeks as well. So this could be the week of Kirk Cousins, like Lonte you mentioned there.
Yeah, 245.5 minus 15. Over 1.5 touchdowns is minus 120.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 straight weeks where a quarterback has to run at least 250 yards or more. So
yeah, has to get going.
Yeah, this has to be the spot for him. I think this might be a good ladder opportunity here for Kirk Cousins. And then I think I'm going to add that to my list. I just want to see what he's done historically against the Raiders here before we move it along. 2 games he's played against them. But this is way back when there was Washington Redskins. 365 passing yards, and then back in 2019, 174 when it was with the Vikings. But he hasn't played them for since the 2019 season. But I think if there is ever a spot, a buy low situation like this, has to be against the Raiders for Kirk Cousins. All right, so that is our player props for each and every game for the Week 15 schedule. Let's put together our anytime touchdown parlay for this week. We're getting just ever so closer. We have still a few weeks left to hit one, but we're getting there. Hopefully it is this week, the magic number of 15 here, Lonte. So let's start here with our touchdown scores for this week. Who do you like to find the end zone?
Let's go with let's go with Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz for the Houston Texans plus 210 to start things off here. So we always have a tight end in there. So we'll get our tight end in there.
Yeah. We'll get him in there first.
Let's see. What do you think about Lamar?
Love it. I think he's going to be running a ton already. Love it.
All right. So throw Lamar in there as well. Who else do you like this
What do you got for A.J. Brown?
A.J. Brown to find the end zone this week. It is. Where are the Eagles? Oh, they're in the afternoon. So I thought they were early. Plus
Yeah,
120.
Yeah, not bad. It's so I like him and I like St. Brown. Which one is higher? I'm pretty sure St. Brown is like lower, probably like 105.
Yeah, he's probably like minus 105. Oh, they're
Yeah.
also in that 425 window. Let's see. Golly, where they go? Here we go. Amon-Ra St. Brown's minus 105.
Yeah, no. I mean,
So
I like
we'll go
AJ
AJ Brown.
Yeah, I like AJ Brown.
All right, we'll go AJ Brown in there. And then we'll add one more for. Do we think it's Trey McBride week? I don't know, man. Everybody's been on that train.
I think we tried Trey McBride. Man, he let us down. Well,
He's let us down several times this week or this season, I should say.
Yeah. What about Tyreek Hill? What is Tyreek Hill to score?
How dare you, sir? Tyreek Hill.
If he's a plus sign beside it, I think he has a good shot.
I'm pretty sure he has a plus sign. Yeah, plus 140.
Let's get him. Let's get it. Man, you don't get plus 140s on Tyreek Hill too often.
Yeah. So this one I'll have to activate the same game parlay, but let me just substitute Tyreek Hill for someone in another game that has plus 140, so that'll give us at least the odds.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nico's also there, plus 140. All right, Devontae's at plus 140 as well. So that'll get to about 44-1. So our touchdown parlay for this week, let me add it here to the banner. We've got Lamar. We've got who's the first one that we mentioned?
Oh, Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz for the Texans. We've got AJ Brown for the Eagles. And then the last one was Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. And make sure if everybody make sure you have round robin in these as well. Like,
yeah, because we're hitting 3 out of 4.
We're getting 3 out of 4 consistently, pretty much. So just make sure you're round robin, and so you're profiting something off of this.
Yeah. All right. So this week we'll go Lamar, Dalton Schultz, AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill. That'll get you 44-1 over on DraftKings for the anytime touchdown parlay of the week. And then last but not least, Lonte, let's put together our Underdog Fantasy entry before we wrap it up here for the NFL Week 15 schedule. Guys, get over there. UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure you use our promo code MACHINE. You'll get a first-time deposit offer up to $1,000. I should say 50% of up to $1,000 over at UnderdogFantasy.com. If you've been following us on the NBA pod, we've had a lot of great success this season. I want to say we've hit at least one per week for the Underdog Fantasy entry here. So, yeah. All right. So, what's your favorite one this week here, Lonte?
Josh Downs higher. I don't know if you want to go receptions or yards. I like both of those equally. I would say go yards, just game script wise.
48.5 is the number for Josh Downs. All right. I really like David Montgomery this week on his.
Damn, I'm playing against him.
On just his receiving yards. He could get 20 and then not do anything for the rest of the week or the rest of the game.
I hope so.
Because I played Jahmyr Gibbs. I have Jahmyr Gibbs in a league that I'm in the playoffs, and I play against him in another league. So it's at 17.5 there. We'll go with that. You want to go Lamar rushing yards?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think Lamar rushing yards is fine. I think he has a monster. And listen, when your mother calls you out, you can't just sit. You can't sit back and can't sit back and just chill. You gotta go crazy. Yeah.
All right. So we'll throw in Lamar. So we'll go with 3 then. We'll go with these 3 players for this week. So we'll go Josh Downs higher 48.5 receiving yards. David Montgomery higher 17.5 receiving yards. Actually, you know what? Since you're going up against Montgomery this week, I'll change it to Charbonnet because
it's cool. It's cool, man. Listen, win is the winner. It's all good.
This week. Oh, his number's at 29.5. Jesus. All right, let's just go back to Montgomery. But I don't doubt that he'll get up and over that number. But we'll stick with Montgomery. All right, so Josh Downs higher 48.5 receiving yards. Lamar Jackson higher 46.5 rushing yards, and then we'll go David Montgomery higher 17.5 receiving yards. That's a 6x entry. So every $10 that you do put in, you'll get a return of $60. Again, get over there, underdogfantasy.com. Make sure that promo code machine. You'll get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. All right, that is going to do it here for this NFL Week 15 pregame show. Lonte, any final thoughts for the people?
Nah, man, love the slate, love the props that we gave out. I'm hoping. I mean, I haven't felt this good about a slate in a while. So as far as player props, so yeah, man, I'm hoping that we kill it. Yeah, hoping that we kill it. Oh yeah, tally site. If you missed the show, tally site. I'm putting all my props in there. I think you are too. A lot of the guys, I know Sean Ryan. A lot of guys putting their props in. So if you missed our show, their show, tally site, perfect place to go to view all of those.
Yeah, you can just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com, hit that NFL tab. You'll see NFL picks there. I think it still says NFL picks here. Let me just double check here before we wrap it up. Or it could be staff picks, but one of the two. Yeah, it's NFL picks still. So get over there. Just hit that tab. You'll see not only our spread picks, money line picks, total picks, but also, like Lonte mentioned, prop picks there as well. So again, you'll get over there, sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Just hit that NFL tab and you'll see the NFL picks option there. You'll get picks from everybody across the SGPN network. And of course, hopefully we do find some winners this week for you guys as well. All right. We'll talk to you guys next week for the NFL 16 pregame show. So look out for us then. Same time, same place. Till then, enjoy the games this Sunday. Hopefully it is a profitable Sunday, and we'll talk to you guys next week. And always remember to let it ride.